Hello shape enthusiasts and welcome back to another episode of Shapes 2. Last time on our insane factory we have just finished milestone 8's delivery and unlocked final qualifications as well as our infinite upgrades for shape multiplier. We only had enough points to do one. The next one's at 750. I don't think we're going to get to 750, but I don't really care about the shape multiplier. I don't think it's going to speed things up too much because most of the time is going to be spent making these factories. I've got 4 staging areas ready to tackle all of our tasks. We're currently on task 16's last shape and we're going to work through all of these tasks slowly. I don't think the blocker is going to be the shape volume of delivery right now. So yeah, I kind of regret decommissioning all of my milestone factories given how much research points it takes to do this infinite research, but that's fine. Let's work on this final shape. Look at this crazy monstrosity. It is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layer shape. Like, I mean, honestly, most of our time is not going to be just waiting for shapes, right? Most of our time is just going to be sitting there designing these factories, honestly. So let's get to work. This first bit of the bottom layer has changed. It's now a blue and yellow start. So this white needs to be yellow. Why am I getting gaps in my white? Am I pulling this red too many times? That's so weird. I'm seeing gaps in my white. What? Okay. I don't see any gaps in these colors. Why would there be gaps in my white? Now that I'm staring at it, there's no more gaps in my white. I have no idea. But anyway, let's build our yellow. I'm just gonna do it here. Get green. Get red, and then our yellow needs to go here. So there's our first belt of yellow, and that'll get my 2 stars. Now we need to piece them together, so let's get the rotation. The blue's still on the bottom, the red's on top, so to get that on top, that's a clockwise rotation. Then we can just stack these 2 together, and that's our very first layer. Great, we've got our first layer going. I'm gonna just put a bin here to flush any incorrect shapes for now. It's gonna take me a while to figure out all these other layers. Our next layer is just a white circle, so that's kind of simple enough. I'm gonna delete all this actually. Clean up a little bit. Grab a painter, just chuck it right here. Grab the white. I know back in the day when I played this game, when things were off screen, they kind of behaved a little bit strangely. I'm not sure if that's still a bug or whether it's been fixed. But it's fine. Like I said, again, shape delivery volume is not our main priority. I don't really care because there's so much work to do. Most of our time is just going to be spent building these factories because in insane mode, unfortunately, there's not much congruence between the shapes of different iterations. Like in normal mode, it's a very straightforward progression between the shapes. Like you build this and then you add some stuff on, then you add some stuff on, then you get your final shape. But in insane mode, it's like some shape, slight change, completely different shape, kind of bits and pieces of these shapes in a completely different order, making it easier just to rebuild it from scratch. So yeah, most of our time is definitely going to be spent building factories, not waiting for shape delivery. You can see this 8,000 is already delivered. Whether my shape multiplier was times 10 or times 2, it's not going to affect the speed at which we complete the rest of this game. Anyway, next shape is a 3/4 square, except 1/4 of it is yellow. Oh my god. Well, I need another yellow square later, so if we paint a square blue, let's just do this. so crazy. Oh, should we just quarter it? Do we have enough square? Yeah, we're not really using that much square, so we'll do it the easy way. Easy way is not worrying about shape efficiency. So we'll use a square, we'll half destroy it, and we'll paint it blue. My god, my blue paint is not reachable. There we go, we'll paint it blue. That should get me a half square. Now, This quarter square I'm going to do with the yellow. So first I'm going to make a yellow quarter circle. Oh man, I'm gonna need so much yellow. But there's more yellow over here too. That's good. So I'm gonna get a quarter destroyer over here. And we're gonna grab the circles. And then we're gonna get a painter. And then we're gonna grab the other belt of yellow around the back here. Leave some space for the white later. And we're gonna bring the yellow down this way. Make sure it doesn't mix with this white belt. And there's our 2 old belts of yellow used up, and that should get me my yellow quarter circle. Let's just stack these 2 together since they're here. My square is there, needs a clockwise rotation. My circle should be in the bottom right, so that needs to go to the top left, which is a 180 rotation. Then we can stack this bit together to get 3/4 of the layer. And the final layer is a quarter yellow square. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint a yellow square first. I can just put my painter here. And then I can kind of pull my yellow. No, this is a different belt of yellow because this yellow has run out. So we'll get another belt of yellow. And then we'll grab our square. And then from there, we can full to 4/4 it. Oops. And we can get rid of, say, one side of it. And then we can maybe get rid of another side of it. We'll get rid of 3 sides of it for now. And we'll just take the quarter bit that we need. And I believe the quarter comes in the top right. So this should be all good. I should be able to just stack this here. And that should get our 3rd layer. I hope. 4th layer. 4th layer is just a full star again, but it's red and white this time. So it's basically this, except it's red and white. I might need to move this train system a little bit out of the way. But we always knew that would be an eventuality as the shapes got more complicated. So let's grab ourselves another star, get that split, and then start coloring those. Now, if I just do the same thing as this, I should be able to, so that's the bottom half. The bottom half is red. So if I get the red paint into here, and then I get my white paint into there, like that, then just stack this together. Theoretically, that should be my 4th layer. And then we've just got our top layer to deal with. We've already made the quarter square, so we can stack that quarter square on. We just got to make sure it's in the right spot. Needs to be on the bottom right. Our thing comes on the top right, so we need a 180-degree rotation. And then we just chuck a stacker over here like this. This needs to go on top, so something like that. And then we need our final piece, which is the quarter wedge. And it needs to be yellow. So let's get a quarter destroyer. Let's get a painter. Let's get a wedge. And finally, let us paint that yellow. I think I have 1 spare belt of yellow, fortunately. Nice. And then we just stack that on. Make sure it's in the right orientation. Now my quarter destroyer goes on the bottom right, but we need it on the top right, so it's a counterclockwise 90. That should in theory get us to our final shape. Hopefully that is correct. We will see soon enough. I don't want to move my train station back a little bit now, but that's fine. Again, speed is not our issue. Now I know this task is flashing at us, but we haven't done this one yet. So let's head over to staging 2. What has changed? So from here, just everything has changed. Now it's a bunch of these crisscrossy shapes, and then it's just a full circle and a full circle, and then that final crisscrossy shape. Oh god. Alright. Maybe I can keep my final layer, and then just get rid of all this, and we'll build it backwards. I'm going to get rid of all of these, because I don't know where these are going to come out, and I don't want it to interrupt my stuff. I'm going to build this a little bit backwards. So we're going to get our 2 circles. One is blue and one is magenta. So we're going to grab a painter. Don't need too much space in between these because they're just straightforward painting. We'll plug our circles in. From top down, it is blue first. If you're enjoying the video and you want to support Data Engineer Plays, don't forget to leave a like and hit that subscribe button. And if you have any feedback or suggestions, feel free to share them in the comment section. So we can put that into stackers. It's not going to stack because I don't have any shape coming in here, but we can kind of theoretically, you know, once we get the rest of the layers. Now we're going from top to bottom, backwards a little bit. Now we need this crisscrossy shape, red and white. So it's exactly the same thing as this, which is a checker border. The shape itself is a square circle, which is nice and straightforward. So if I put my circle here and my square here. Now the circle bit all lines up, right? Yeah, all the circle bits line up, so this should in theory be the same as this orientation. We want both belts out, so I'm going to get 2 painters from my checker border, because one checker border can bring in 2 full belts of shape and output 2 full belts of checkerboarded shape, which is fantastic. One of them needs to be red and one of them needs to be white. So this one needs to be white. Is there a clear path for my white? I think there is. There you go. And one of them needs to be red, which is here. And theoretically, this should give me my final thing. So if I just get a couple stackers over here, that should be my final shape, I hope. Time will tell. In the meantime, we've got staging 3 to work on, so we can unlock that. And once again, the shape, like why? I don't understand. I guess I can make this shape and this shape at the same time if I really wanted to, because I've got all the colors going, but you know what? We'll just do one shape at a time. Don't want to confuse ourselves, right? Is the final shape some combination of this? No, the final shape is just some completely whack and different shape. This one is a little bit annoying because it's checkerboarded shapes, but there's 3 of them, so I'm going to have to do this twice. I'm going to keep all my colors up the top because I don't know when I'm going to need them. But we'll just get rid of this bits. The output bits we'll get rid of. The input bits we'll keep. Did I destroy some input bits? What is going on over here? The green is there. This red doesn't need to exist. There we go. That's nice and clean. You know what? I'm just going to clean up this green as well. There you go. All right, cool. So we've got all that color mixing happening. So we can grab that whenever we want. We need lots of checkerboarding happening. So let's get all our checkerboarding going. It's a checkerboard between a wedge and a circle. So if I bring my wedge and then I bring my circle, that should get that going. We're going to need another one at some point, but let's paint the first 2. Then let's get the red in. Then let's get the white in. Something like that. Wow, that double shape delivery is so fast. Like one load is just 6.4K. Nice. Then we will get another checkerboarder going. Same deal. We'll do it in the same order so that it makes sure their orientation is correct. We'll get a bin in, get another painter going, get a belt in there, and the top layer is magenta. So magenta is like all the way over there. Do I want to just crisscross it this way? Not the best practice, but whatever. That's not right. Alright, I'm gonna go up. And we'll plug it down that way. Probably get all our colors going upwards instead of downwards. That should be all our layers. So we just need to layer them now. Get our stackers in. There you go. And off you go for delivery. That should be that shape going. Fantastic. Let's go back to staging 2, validate this shape is indeed being created correctly. The orientation of all the bits and bobs look correct. Yep, that's all good. Yay, finally did everything. Now I can finally use staging 4. See how shape delivery isn't a problem because there's still more work to be done. If I've run out of staging area and I have to like deliver, like wait for more shapes to deliver, in that case, then I will be like, all right, maybe we need to do our shape multiplier, but I don't think that's ever going to be the case. By the time I even figure out the first bit of staging this next shape, I think this thing's going to be done, and then we're going to be working on this shape. Pin pushing stuff, yay. All right, this is a red and white checkerboard. Okay, so that's a white circle, red square. Let's make that. Which direction are we making stuff in staging 4? Where's my home? There's the main rail. It's up here. So we'll start from down here and then we'll work our way up. So let's get painters in. So we need a square. I'm just going to put them in like this. And we need a circle. We already got the circle. We need a square. Fantastic. Now we need red for, well, we need white. So let's make white. There's our RGB to make white. The white needs to go on the circle. There you go. And then the red needs to go on the other circle. Oh, I can't do it there. Do it on the other side. There we go. Now, when we get our checker border out, we should be able to just plug that into the checker border. We'll destroy half of it. And in theory, this other half should be exactly what we need. We're just going to go back to any staging area. I need to check staging 3 anyway, because I want to steal a train station. Is this the shape that we want? That looks awfully like the shape that we want. I'm going to steal a train station. It's going to go to staging 4. And then we'll put the train station somewhere like over here, not too ridiculously far away. Somewhere like here maybe. Now we just need to run a rail back home. Needs to connect to that rail somehow. There's a little bit of a jump here, but that's nothing a train can't handle. Another bit of a jump here. Yeah, that's nothing a train can't handle. Fantastic. That should make our crisscrossies once the white paint arrives. Fantastic. Everything is working. Now we've got 4 staging areas online. Let's go back to staging 1, finish off that shape, delete everything we've done, and pick a new shape to do. So we'll unlock that. And we can start pinning this. Now we've got pins to do. Fantastic. We've got pins on the very, very top layer. So that means we don't need single layer pins. 1, 2, well, I can't even see the layers with the pins. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the 5th layer is pins. So that means we can put any pin shape in. We don't have to create singular pin layers. That's fine. So the bottom layer is just all pins. So we can just ignore the bottom layer and just like pin push the whole thing up at the very end. So our new bottom layer is actually the 2nd layer, which is just a quarter of a emerald wedge. Still calling them emeralds. 15 episodes in, trying to like rejig my terminology. It's just that stupid emerald shape just like ruined me. Should be pretty easy to clear a staging area as well. We just clear everything. And we're ready to go. So let's start off with half a wedge. Is there anything? They're all just half shapes. So we're just going to go with half destroys. So half destroy a wedge. That wedge needs to be green. Everything needs to be green. Then we'll need to pin push that up. Might have to find somewhere on my bar for the pin pusher. We'll rotate it into position so we don't confuse ourselves. It's a clockwise rotation. And that's our 2nd layer. or our first layer. The next layer is a... Wait, why am I pin pushing the green? I don't want to pin push the green. We're treating that as the bottom layer. We want to pin push the stars next. So let's grab green stars. Half destroy, paint, bring green. Now the stars go on top, so that's a... Wait, is this the wrong order then? They start off on the right. To get to the top, it's a counterclockwise rotation. This one does need to be pin pushed, so let's get our pin pusher up. And in theory, we should be able to stack these two together now as two different layers, because nothing else goes on that star layer. So we should be able to put our stacker in, do that. Now we can work on our third layer, which is just a half green circle. So again, we'll get our half destroyer, we'll get our painter, bring a shape in, which is the circle, bring the color, which is the green. There's our green circle. It needs to go into the same rotation as that, and then that should just be able to stack, no pins required. Now the next layer is just pins, but we can just pin push any shape, right? So we can just, I really should have split something, but it doesn't really matter. We'll just grab a stars, and then we'll do the same rotation. It doesn't need to be painted, but it does need to be pin pushed. Then we should be able to stack that on top, and we should end up with a 5-layer shape. But that's not a 5. 1, 2, 3, 4 layers. But because that's pin pushed, it's going to be 5 layers. And then when we pin push the entire thing up, it should get rid of everything. Yeah, that makes sense to me. We'll come back and check in on that in a little bit. But we've got our first 2 layers done correctly so far. Something wrong with this. Hello, why are you not producing anything? You are. So this is just our regular half circle. That should stack on top. Yeah, this is a bit confusing, but we'll come check in on this. I'm sure it's correct. Let's go back to staging 3, where this shape is being created. Oh wait, let's do staging 2 first. Let's do things in order. That's this very, very colorful little shape. Let's see what we're doing next. Nope, we're not doing anything next. We're doing a brand new shape. A layer of pins. I wanted to show you guys this. I want to show you a cool way of how I do pins. Let's just delete all this crap first. So, the way I like to do a full stack of pins, let's just see what the rest of the task is. Is it a bunch of random stuff that use that full layer of pins? Alright, so the way I like to do a full layer of pins is just getting a shape. Wait, how do I do this? Let me think about this. Alright, so I don't know if this is elegant or cursed, but basically if we grab our pin pusher and we take any shape and pin push it, not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 5 times, what do you think that will leave us with? Let's watch. There's the first pin push. There's the second pin push. There's the third pin push. Fourth pin push, you can see the shape's looking a little bit crazy. Fifth pin push, fifth pin push, and then the final pin push, and look what you're left with. Just a stack of pins. So what do you do with a stack of pins? That's not just one layer of pins, right? It's kind of useless, maybe. But what you can do is you can crystal maker that. And let's bring a belt of any color. Well, we can change this belt later. You want to use a color that you're not going to run out of, because you need 2 belts of this color. So say blue. And let's see what happens to this pin layer once you put it through a crystal maker. Here comes the blue. And you guessed it, you end up with a fully stacked crystal. See that? All crystal. And how does that give us a full layer of pins? Well, you simply pin push that, and guess what happens to the crystal? It disappears. Look at that. Why? Because you've pin pushed a full layer shape up. The top crystal is going to shatter, And because they're all connected, that shatters every touching crystal, which is all the crystals, leaving you with just a singular stack of pins. And that is exactly the shape that we need to create to start this task. So let's just put that straight into our base. A fully stacked layer of pins, hilarious. All right, back to staging 3. Let's continue on with our lives. So that's this shape. And now I know it just completely changes again to both a completely different shape as well as colors. Fun. So let's just delete what we've done again. I'm gonna get rid of this magenta belt. And then we're gonna get rid of this white. And we're gonna get rid of this red. All right, cool. So we've gotten rid of everything. Except for these. To make the shape is pretty simple. We've got our full to 3/4 maker. And it is a circles. And then we can do a quarter square. So we'll get a quarter destroyer here, and then we'll bring the square. Now we should be able to just stack these shapes up, because I think my full to 3/4 maker puts the hole in the top right, and no, this is in the bottom left, isn't it? No, bottom right. So we need to rotate that counterclockwise like this. Then we can stack these two together. And that should get us the shape that we want. Now we need to paint them. We need to paint them white. Pop that up there. And that's basically what we need to do. So we're going to copy that 3 times. Something like that. Bring the circles. Bring the squares. Bring the circles. Bring the squares. Let's just validate this shape is correct before we go too crazy. Yeah, that's definitely the shape that we want. Our next one is green. Simple enough. And our last one is yellow, which conveniently is over here as well. Very simple. Get our stackers in. Link them all up. And that should get us our final shape. Fantastic. Next shape, this is all done. Let's go back to staging 1 and work on this weird green shape. Dress up Dalian. I don't know what that reference is to. If you know, let me know in the comments. What has changed though? Oh, a lot has changed. The bottom layer is no longer just pins, is it? No, the bottom layer is still pins. The second layer was just this green thing. Now it's a green thing with a red thing. I'm not even gonna bother trying to modify my shape too much. Let's see if oh man, if I don't make these modifications, the changes over here are gonna get crazier and crazier, aren't they? I think I can make this modification pretty easily. I think. So we just need to add a red star to the second layer. No, the modifications on this aren't going to be that easy. It's gonna be super confusing. At the end, we're just gonna have to pin up the whole thing. So we'll just work as if that's our first layer. So our first layer is just this green emerald and red half star. I'm just going to delete this and we're just going to start again because this is going to become really confusing, so I don't like it. So we've got our green emerald, we need our red star. So we'll bring our star. We'll bring our red. And this needs to be the opposite rotation. It's going to come out on the right. So it needs to go on the top, which is a counterclockwise rotation. And then we can stack these two together. Just like that. Now, our third layer is a pinned up thing. And a stack of pins, alright? So let's just do a half red circle. I'm gonna do a cutting, I'm not even gonna bother with a cutting 1 to 2, it's gonna tangle my belt, so I'm just gonna use a half destroyer. So with a half destroyer, we're gonna have to paint that circle red. Grab another belt of red. Then we need to push that onto the top. So it's the same rotation as this. And that's our red circle bit. So we can start stacking this. So the red circle then goes on top. And then that's our second layer, or third layer, whatever you want to call it. Then our next layer is half a green circle and half a red square. I should have used cutting 1 to 2 here. Oh well. Not like we're running out of circles. So there's the red circle portion of it. Sorry, the green circle. Did I do red circle or green circle? Yeah, green circle portion of it. And then if we want to stack the square part on, we need to pin up the squares. So I'm going to stack this on first so I don't confuse myself. And then we're going to do our half red squares. So we'll get another half destroyer. And this is kind of the same layout, but I'll give it a little bit of space. Nope, doesn't like that. Bring it on this side. The half red squares. Green circles goes on the top as well. So we're going to make sure that goes on top. The red squares goes on the bottom. And it needs to be pinned up. Alright, that should get us most of it. And then we just need any half pinned up shape. So we just get a half destroyer on any shape. Stars is fine. We'll grab our pin pusher. And then we should be able to stack that on. And once again, if we take our pin pusher at the very end, that should knock off the top layer, leaving us with just the 2 pins. Did I rotate that correctly though? I don't think I did. That needs to go on top, so it's a counterclockwise rotation. And there we go. So that should be that. Moving on, let's go back to staging. That one's in staging 3 or 4, I don't remember. Staging 3 is doing the pin pushing bit. Nope, staging 3 is doing that. What's staging 1 doing? See, now I've completely lost track of what all my staging areas doing. So staging 1 is doing this. Staging 2 is doing nothing. No, staging 2 is doing this pin shape. All right, let's work on this one next. Well, it's just 3/4 of a pin layer and then a pin pushed red thing. That's just annoying. How do I can full to 3/4 that for the second layer. The bottom layer is just a diagonal white circle and a square. All right, so we'll leave our pin layer. Let's just work on everything else and ignore that pin layer for now. So I'm gonna get full to 2 diagonals. And we're going to get that on the circles. Then we're going to get a 1/4 destroyer. And we're going to get that on the squares. Now, once these shapes merge, I should be able to get what I need. Let's put a bin somewhere. So that's going diagonally correct. The square needs to be on the bottom right, bottom left. So it's a clockwise rotation. Then we should be able to merge this shape together. So we'll get our stacker and then just do that. And now we should be able to paint this thing white. And we have to make white. So let's go ahead and do that. Green, red, and blue makes white. And white goes somewhere here, like that. And that should get us our bottom layer. Then it's just a 1/4 of a red circle. So if we get our 1/4 destroyer out, bring our circles in, paint that red. Pin push that up. Get it to the right orientation, which is a counterclockwise rotation. That should get us the shape that we need. And we should just be able to stack these two together. Now that's the bottom shape. If I full to 3/4 this, we should get 3/4 of a pin layer. My hole is in the top right, which is correct. That's the top, that's the bottom now. That's the only confusing part. So if I get my stacker bent, I'm gonna break with tradition a little bit and put it facing this way. That should get us most of the shape, and this should just stack into the hole. So in fact, orientation doesn't matter anymore here. I'm gonna do that, and that should get us out, I believe. Yep, there's our 3/4 pin. Our white is now coming. That should get us this shape. Just make sure this shape is correct. That looks correct to me. That'll become white. Yep, I think this is all good. That's all pin pushed up and in the right position. Fantastic. Now that was staging 2. Let's move on to staging 3. And staging 3 is making the 4th iteration of this shape, I believe. And now we just got to make the final shape, which is just a completely different shape. But we can full to 2 diagonal a white star to start with. I'm just going to delete everything. Delete that, and everything else should be all good. Start off with our white star. Get our painter in. Grab our star. Paint that white. Nothing fancy. Get our full to 2 diagonals going. That should get our 2 diagonal white star bits. One of them is the bottom layer. One of them we will reserve for the very end, or the 3rd layer. Then we should be able to make this crisscrossy shape. I'm just looking whether that's the same crisscrossy shape as on this layer, just rotated. Yes, it is. So we should be able to just create our shape very easily here, which is just our checkerboarder. Chuck that in there, give it a little bit of space for belt shenanigans. It is a wedge. And it is a circle. Right, one of them's cyan, one of them's blue. So let's start with our 2nd layer, which is blue. Bring our blue paint in. And now we can start stacking some stuff together to get rid of some belt shenanigans. We'll stack this on top of one of these, but it might need rotation. Yes, this needs rotation. Get rid of that. Give that a 90-degree rotation in any orientation. That should be our bottom 2 layers done. Does this thing need rotation though? Yes, this thing needs rotation too. Give that also a 90-degree rotation. So that's our white star bit, and our 2nd layer, the blue crisscrossy shape. Then it's white star again on top. So if I did that, and then we brought that over across and down, that should be the 3rd layer. And then our 4th layer is just this shape without rotation, but it's cyan this time. So I should be able to put that there, grab our cyan paint, go under, and just bring it up here. And this is the last shape, so I don't really care about making a mess because we're going to delete all this anyway. And then we just need to put that in there and then plug that in there, and that should go out there. And there's a cool little factory to make. I don't know, this final shape is surprisingly easy to make. As long as I've got all the orientations of all my stuff in the right orientation, then we should be all good. Fantastic. Alright, let's go check in on staging 3. Wait, that was staging 3. Let's go check in on staging 4. That was making this crisscrossy shape. Now we got to make kind of this crisscrossy shape again, but it's uncolored. Oh god. Alright, I'm just going to make this separately. So we're going to full to 2 diagonal, and we're going to need more white paint. It's got to be a troll, doesn't it? Couldn't just be this shape again. So we're going to try to full to 2 diagonal the circles later. Let's just get full to 2 diagonal on the squares first. Like that. Just bin one bit of it for now. Let's get a painter on the other bit. And we need to mix some more white paint. can just do this. Forgot I can just mix another 2 belts of white paint very easily by pulling whatever this paint is. Go under and up, and with that other belt of red, that should make 4 belts of white that I can use now. So I should be able to pull another belt of white over to my painter, like such. And that should make my diagonal bit for the square, which is in the wrong orientation, so I'm going to give that a rotation. Now I need my full to 2 diagonals on the circle, and I need both bits of the circle, so I will do that, and then we'll get 2 painters over here. No, wait, one of them doesn't need to be painted, but one of them does. So I'm going to put the painted bit here, and then the unpainted bit here, and now if I stack this together, I should get what I need. Like this, and that should get us our diagonal squares and uncolored circles as a layer, and then we just need to paint this bit white. Down and up we go. It's a lot harder to work horizontally than vertically, I find. Yeah, that's probably because my orientation is not dead on. If I do that, that should make it a little bit easier, I think. Alright, cool. So I've got this layer, I've got this layer. Now it's time to just stack layers together. Let's grab our stacker, go across, bring that across. That should be our first 2 layers. Let's get this rotated correctly now, because I'm having everything else rotated correctly, so I don't want to mess this rotation up. Then from here, we should just be able to stack it on with this, right? And theoretically, this should be our final shape now. Only time will tell, but that looks like all my bits and bobs. So that's all good. Back to staging 1. Infinite work to do. See, shape delivery speed is definitely not the problem here. It's me being slow. All right, what has changed here? So what was green is now just all red. That bottom layer's shape hasn't changed, but it's now all red. And then at the end, after we pin push away that shape, we need to stack on another squares. Okay. Sure. Let's just change that bottom layer's color. I'm just wondering if the second layer has also completely changed on me. Instead of a pin pushed thing, it's now an actual shape. Can I do this with modifications? So instead of painting first, if we just quarter destroy and stack first, we should be able to bring the paint up here. Oh, sorry, stack and then paint. So change the order of operations a little bit over here. And now this layer is a circles. It's still a red circles, but instead of nothing, we need to weave in an uncolored half a emerald. I'm just going to do the uncolored half over this side. Half destroy, grab my wedge, sorry, not emerald. Put that at the bottom, so that's a clockwise rotation. And that needs to stack over here. So I'm just going to put another stacker like this, and then just bring this around the back. That should modify my second layer, and that should get my half circle and uncolored wedge. And then my third layer is still a green circles, so that doesn't change. And then with that green circles, I'm stacking on a red square there. That's fine. And then we're doing this, which should still pin push out, but then I just need a half red square at the very end of this production chain. That should make the necessary modifications. So if I get a half destroy on my squares, and then we give that a rotation to the bottom, so that's a clockwise rotation, then we paint that white. Annoyingly, we don't have white or any mixed colors over here, so we'll do some color mixing. RGB in and white out. there. Bring that down and up. That should get our white square in the right orientation. And after we pin push away everything, we should just be able to stack this white square on top. Like that. That should get us our final shape in theory. We'll have to let that run. Some of the trash needs to sort of clear out a little bit. And then we will validate whether that shape is correct. All right, back to staging 2. Staging 2, what are you making? Staging 2 is making this shape. It's now completed. Already, it's so fast. Ugh, can't keep up. All right, what's the next iteration of this shape? Something completely wacky's happening. So this bottom 2 layers is unchanged. Because isn't that just what we made before? That's just that. So we've just added a 3rd layer on top, which is just a red square. Okay, let's just add on a red quarter square. Get our quarter destroyer. Get our square. Get our painter. Get our red. The square is going to be in the bottom right. We need it on the bottom left, so that's a clockwise rotation. And then we just stack that on. Next, the top layer is a completely wacky shape made from all sorts of bits and bobs. So let's make the shape first and then we'll paint it white. Start with our cutout, full to 2 diagonals on the circles. Then we need a quarter of 2 shapes. So let's get 2 quarter destroyers. One of the shapes is a wedge. One of the shapes is a square. So that should get us our shape. Let's get our bin. Now I know my diagonal comes out correctly. My wedge is going to be on the bottom right, so I need to rotate it counterclockwise. And my square is going to be on the bottom right, so I need to rotate it clockwise. Now we just need to stack all this together. That should be our shape. Our shape needs to be painted white. Do we have a spare belt of white paint? I believe we do. Do it out here. Pop that up and in. The orientation should be correct, so theoretically we should just be able to stack this onto this, and that should be our final shape. Right? Nothing tricky there. I don't think there's anything tricky there. The overhang should be perfectly fine because we're stacking on a full shape here, so it'll just overhang. Looks like a lot of gaps and looks scary, but it's not really. Staging 3 is just straight up completed. We're actually almost getting to this. Oh, no, we're not. That's 750. Never mind. That's probably never going to happen in this series, so if you're waiting for me to unlock shape multiplier number 3, I don't think that's going to happen, realistically. But what I can do is clear out that, and we can start working on a brand new task. Hooray! Again, just completely wacky progression. I guess this bottom shape almost stays the same forever until here, where we have to color it in. But then the shape changes to, yeah, whatever. I'm going to restart it at this point. Let's just work on this shape. There's no point trying to like optimize for later progression. It's just honestly just easier to start again. These are all quarter shapes, so I'm just going to do quarter destroys. To square it, a wedge. So here's a wedge, here's a square. They're all going to be in the bottom right. The square is going to be in the correct spot. The wedge needs to do a counterclockwise flippity flip. They need to do a stack. Stays uncolored. Next part of the shape is a circle and a wedge. So we'll bring our wedge, we'll bring a circle. The wedge is in the correct spot this time, but the circle needs to do a counterclockwise flippity flip. So we'll do that, that, and then we need white paint. So white paint goes in here. And then we need to bring the paint down there. So far this pattern's been working out okay for me. Sorry. White paint needs to go up that way. because that's the shape. I haven't put the painter in yet. There we go. Now we can just stack these two together and get that out. Nice. That should be this shape. I really want to go back and check in on staging 1 because I feel like something should have delivered and it was a very complex shape, so I'm sure I've done something wrong. Where's my white square? Why is there no white square on top? What am I making? Something is extra pin pushing. This red square is being pin pushed. Ah, yep. Understand. Where's my red square? There's a pin pushing process over here. Which one's the pin pusher? That's the pin pusher. That needs to stop pin pushing. And then that should leave enough room for the white square. Yeah, that's right. Because it pin pushed because the bit that used to be under there was empty, but now we've put a bit in there, so we've got to get rid of the pin pushing part. All right, where were we up to? Staging 3. So we're making this shape now, hopefully. That looks awfully like the shape that I want to make. Staging 4, what are you doing? You're making this thing. What do you need to be making? Is it the same shape? Tell me the bottom 3 layers are the same shape. Yes, it's just a magenta circle and then another checkerboarded shape on top. Looking very closely. It's not trying to trick me, is it? It looks very much like the same shape. Okay, so it's not too much of a change yet. Get a magenta circle going. Get a color mixer. We need blue. We need red. That makes magenta. Put the magenta through our painter to get our magenta circle. Put that through the stacker. Let's just cut this belt because I don't know where that's going to go. And finally, we need a checkerboarded shape up the very top. So it's a square and a circle on a checkerboard. Not too difficult. There's the circle. There's the square. We'll bin half of it. Now we'll paint the other half. I say not too difficult, but I need to make cyan paint. So we'll get another color mixer. Pull in some green, pull in some blue, make cyan. And then I should be able to have a clear path along here. Pop that up there. And that should get me my cyan checkerboarded shape, but is it facing the right orientation is the question. I believe it is. So should just be able to stack this together now. And my train station is in the perfect spot. Fantastic. Very good. Is staging 1 working now, or do I still have to wait to see? I see some white. I see one with the white bit on top. No, I captured the wrong shape. But yeah, I think that's working. We'll just let that do its thing. Alright, staging 2. You are done already. So fast. Final part of this shape. What have we done? What has changed? The bottom bit is the same. That bit is the same. Is it literally the same shape? No, the second layer has changed. Where there was just a red square, there is now a red square and a red diagonal circle bit. So the third layer has changed. Don't get tricked. But didn't I have a spare diagonal circle bit? Yeah, I did. So if we paint that red, or if we just stack it first with the square, then paint it red. Is the diagonals in the right spot? Yes. So I do that. Then I get my painter. Pop that up, not there, but there. That should get me my correct new third layer. Our fourth layer remains unchanged, I hope. Yes. And then on top of that is another 3/4 pins. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers. So this is the 5th layer. I don't need to create any sort of crazy pin pushing. I just need a 3/4 shape, and then I just need to pin push the 3/4 shape and stack it on top. In theory, that should give me what I want. So if I get a full to 3/4 on any shape, I think we have, no, we don't have spare circles anymore, but we definitely have spare of this. That will give me a 3/4 shape. The hole's actually in the top right, which is exactly where I need it. Then if I pin push that, and then just stack that on, that shape on top should disappear because there's not enough space on the layers. And then that should get me out, and that should get me my shape. Fantastic. We'll let that run for a bit, and we'll come back and check on it in a bit. Over at staging 3, we got this shape to do. So it's almost exactly the same shape, but all right, instead of quarters, we're just doing it from halves. Okay, so it's half an emerald and half a square now. If I replace this with half destroyers instead of quarter destroyers, is that an easy out for me? They'll both be on the same thing, so definitely one of them needs to be a 180 rotation. So for example, if I do that, and then that'll get me my squares on the right, but then ultimately my squares needs to be on the bottom. So I'm going to give a clockwise rotation after they stack. Similarly over here, I should be able to just change that to half destroyers because the shape remains the same. Then rotate one of them 180 degrees, and that will get me my emeralds on the bottom. No, emeralds on the right. Emeralds need to go on top. So ultimately we need to do a counterclockwise rotation at the very end. In theory, that should just get me my right final shape. Of course, we need these 2 pins, and there's no way to make 2 pins on the 3rd layer. So we're going to need to do our crazy pin pushing trick again. So if we recall, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pins, followed by a crystal maker, followed by another pin push. And we can use any shape for this. Since we're using a lot of these shapes, we'll just use star for our dummy shape because that's not being used, so we don't run out. And for colors, we're using a little bit of RGB. Green is as good as any color for this. And there you go. That should be a half pin layer. We obviously need to half destroy that. And then we need to rotate that up. It's going to be on the right, so we need to counterclockwise rotate that. Then we can stack everything. And that should be my half pins on top. Just like that. Excellent. Apparently I've caught up on my thing. How many things am I getting per... No, I'm only getting 10 research points per thing. But I've got a lot of this. It's very loud, so I'm going to cut over this. I'm on 530 points now. Anyway, our shape is now done. So let's go back to staging 1 and figure out the next iteration of this crazy shape. There's still a lot to go. Oh man, I'm gonna have to figure out the layer by layer modifications to this. Okay, so now you're changing my bottom layer. And my second layer that used to be the second layer that was fully red is now red and magenta. Oh man, I shouldn't have changed the order of this color. I should have just made this belt red, and then it would have been really easy to modify. All right, let's see if we can make these stupid modifications. Yeah, we're gonna have to change the way the back order works as well. Oh, do I want to just start again? I kind of just want to start again, like, because everything's completely different now. And the top layer is just all pins now. What's changed in the middle layers? Let's have a look at the middle layers. The shape's all the same, just the colors have all completely gone whack. Yeah, you know what? This is probably just, you know, it's so confusing. It's just so confusing. It's so much easier to just start again. I'm even gonna get rid of the color mixer. Let's just start again. Why not? All right, first layer now on the bottom is just an empty thing with a pin. So we're gonna start with a white emerald. I'm not even gonna do 1 to 2s because it's gonna tangle all my belts. I'm just gonna use half destroyers because I'm not gonna run out of shapes. White wedge on the bottom. So I'm gonna put my white right over here this time. Grab our painter. Alright, there's our bottom layer, which is just a white wedge. Let's spin it to the bottom, which is a clockwise rotation. Our second layer is another emerald that's magenta and a red pin pushed thing. Okay, let's just get the magenta emerald first. I should have done cutting 1 to 2 here. I'm an idiot. Oh well. These are going to go together, so I'm going to put them together. It's not like I'm going to run out of emeralds, so I'm going to forgive myself there, but I should have done this a little bit better. Let's make magenta. There you go. It's going to go into the same rotation, and I'm just going to stack these straight up. Great. So that's my first 2 layers for the bottom half, and then the top half is a red star that's going to be stacked up. So I'm going to half destroy a star, and I'm going to paint that red. Now it needs to go onto the top, so that's a counterclockwise rotation. Then we need to pin push that. That's our first 2 layers, sort of done a little bit weird. Any order of stacking should get me where what I want for the first 2 layers. Next 2 layers are both the same shape. So it's a half square, half circle, but they're all like colored differently. So I just need to I'm just gonna half cut them because it's just easier, honestly. So like half, square, circle. Like this. 2 painters. The square is white. We've got white. And the circle is red. There we go. They're both going to be on the right hand half. So the white square needs to go on the bottom, which is clockwise. And the other one is obviously counterclockwise. And now we should be able to stack these 2 together to get the layer that we want. Then we should be able to stack the 3rd layer on, and that should be 3 layers. And then the next one is exactly the same, almost exactly the same, but the square is uncolored. So we're going to get rid of this painter, and then the circle is green. So we'll grab our green, and we'll paint that green, and that should be exactly the same shape, right? And we should be able to just stack that on. And it actually is a lot more simplified than what it was before. And now our final shape is literally anything with a pin pusher. Just use star. I don't think that's being used very much. And then in theory, so we just stack that on, we should just be left with the star bit, right? Because that's already 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then that's the 5th layer. And the star would be the 6th layer, so that won't work. So that will just leave us with the pins, and that should be the shape that we need. It was probably a lot faster to just rebuild this than to do the modifications needed from the last shape. It would have been a pain and a nightmare. So that was staging 1. Let's go back to staging 2. What are we making here? That's not what we're making. But since nothing's delivered, we know something's wrong with it. This is not coming out. This is not coming out. Something's wrong here. What are we missing? We've got the red paint. We don't have the shape. That's not coming out. Why is that not coming out? That's got no paint. Oh my god. What is this? This is a painter, but I don't want a painter. I just want it to come out. Duh. Silly. We don't need to paint it red because we're making the shape first, then painting it red to make that third layer. See? So you got to check in on your staging areas in order because everything should be coming out in order. So something's wrong probably here in staging 3 as well because nothing's coming out. One of these shapes is rotated incorrectly and it's this one. Where's the white bit? The white bit doesn't need a rotation? No, it needs a clockwise rotation. There we go. Clockwise rotation. That should get it to the right orientation to stack. And, well, we validated the final shape is correct. We just got the orientation of the thing in the wrong order. That's fine. Staging 4, still got work to do. Don't you worry. Staging 4 is done. So is that the final shape? Nowhere near the final shape. Why does this shape look simpler than this shape? What's changed? The bottom layer has just become fully red. The second layer has become a little bit cyan. And then it changes again later, but the full shape changes. All right. Let's fix up the bottom layer. Let's just make it fully red. So do I just cut this? And then just bring the red? Like that. So now that bottom layer is fully red. And then that'll stack with this second layer, which is being made like this. But the uncolored bit is now cyan. So this uncolored circles now needs to be cyan. I don't have, I have a spare belt of cyan. Can do that. So that should get me my second layer because it's already got the white squares. Yeah, so it was already the white squares, but now that circle bit is cyan. Then the next layer is just cyan circles. What was it before? It was white circles. So that's also cyan now. So I just replaced that with cyan. That should get me my third layer of cyan circles. But it's changed orientation as well. Has it? Oh, I'm so confused. Just wanted to change orientations on me to confuse me. So let's get a rotation in there to make the cyan circles go that way. And our final layer is just this shape. This is no longer existing anymore, this circle layer. It's just this shape, which is in the correct thing, but instead of being cyan, it's now yellow. So let's get green and red to make yellow. And then we'll bring that over and then down. Get that going this way. Stop doing this crazy nonsense. And I believe that should get me what I want. I have no idea. Oh, we've got an extra stacker over here that we don't need anymore. See, they even throw in like task simplification a little bit down the line just to throw you off. And then this last shape, once again, is just some completely nonsense shape. Fantastic. All right, let's have a look at all our other staging shapes. Nothing is producing. So that means all my shapes are wrong. All right, let's have a look at why staging 1 is not producing. Oh, no, staging 1's all good. Fantastic. Let's have a look at why staging 2 is not producing. This looks a little bit wrong. What is this? What is this nonsense? This is not what I want. I want to make the third layer. The square needs to be in the bottom right. Oh no. I need a rotation here. So it comes out the bottom right. but the square is actually on the bottom left. So I need a clockwise rotation here. Like that. I'm gonna observe this carefully because I already made 2 mistakes on this one, so I don't want to make another mistake. Let's clear the crap out of there. I should say if I don't make any mistakes, then I have plenty of work to do, but if I do make mistakes, then I do run out of work to do. I might need a 5th staging area, or I really should have unlocked all those research points. Let's see how many more I can get. Not many more. We might get to 750 eventually, and then we'll triple our shape delivery, which should be good. Yeah, so that should be now correct. This is still needs a little bit of a flush. That is correct, so we should be able to stack that 3rd layer on, and then the rest of the layers should just come automatically. Okay, cool. So let's go back to staging 1 because we have finished this now. And let's hope the final change of this shape doesn't troll us too hard. Alright, let's have a look at the bottom layer. It was white and pin, and now the bottom layer is white and star. Has it just dropped everything on me again? Or is it just a completely different shape again? Is there anything I can salvage? It's just so confusing, this change. Like, I feel like there's probably an easy way to do this, but I just can't be bothered figuring it out. So I'm just going to delete everything and start again. I feel like it takes me longer to figure out what the difference between the shapes is, rather than just to, like, start again, honestly. So the bottom layer is now a white emerald, and then there's a magenta emerald. I'm going to do a cutting 1 to 2 this time. Is the first 2 layers just normal? It's just normal, isn't it? We're going to need a lot more white, though. I can already tell, so I'm going to make more white before we get started. We need another belt of green. Okay, so start with a cutting 1 to 2. Do I want to make this with cutting 1 to 2? I can't even be bothered. I'm just going to make them based on the shapes that they are. It's just easier. Like, why be shape efficient? It just doesn't make sense. Being shape efficient just makes everything more difficult. Let's get a half a star and get half a wedge. Get 2 painters. The star is magenta. I've put this in the most awkward position. That's fine, we'll just do something like this. And this thing is white. So we just come down here. And we'll plug that in there. The star's on top. So that's counterclockwise. Therefore, this is clockwise. Get our stacker. And there we go. That's our first layer done. Our second layer is just a white circle and magenta wedge. So it's exactly the same thing. Give it a little bit of space. Instead of a star wedge, it is a circle wedge. That should get me the exact same sort of shape, just replacing the circle bit. The circle is white and the thing is magenta. So I can just take my white from here. And then I can bring my magenta, maybe it's easier just to do it here. This is a little bit cursed now, but since it's the last shape, I'm going to forgive myself and just do it dirty. Alright, that's the first 2 layers done. Let's get those stacked. Third layer, what craziness are you? You're a circle square. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing. But instead, I'm going to do circle square. So we'll get the circle. Grab the square. And the circle needs to be cyan. And I don't make cyan at the moment, so let's do that. Grab green. Grab blue. And the circle needs to be cyan. like that. The square that it's mixing with needs to be white. So that gets there. And that should get me my third layer. They're just normal shapes again. It looks complicated, but it's actually just normal shapes. Now, the next layer, so there's pins on here with nothing there. So we're gonna have to make a pins at some point. So let's just do the uncolored half square next. Grab our half destroyer, grab a squares. Needs to be on the bottom, so that's a clockwise rotation. Let's stack that on. And then let's make our pin layer. You know, I swear to God, I need to just save this blueprint. If we go back to staging 4 or 3 or one of our staging areas, we should really just save this blueprint. Single pin layer. Can we go? I think that's a pin. Nope, that's not the right shape code. Ah, there we go, there's a single pin layer. Single pin layer. I'm just gonna save it in my root directory because it's not something I'm gonna use very often, I don't think. Single pin layer. Just put that there. We can grab any shape we're not using. I think star's a good candidate. And we can get any color we're not using a lot of. Blue we're using a lot of. Green we're using a lot of. Maybe red's the least used color. Pop that up. And with our single pin layer, we only want half of it. So let's get a half destroyer. And it's going to be on the right. We need it on the top. So that's a counterclockwise rotation. Then we can stack it. And that should get us our 4th layer done. And then our 5th layer is just 2 pins on the bottom. So we can just half destroy any shape and then just pin it up. So we get a half destroyer. Star's another good candidate for this. Grab our pin pusher. Needed to go on the top. No, needed to go on the bottom. So it's a clockwise rotation. And then if we just stack this all together, we should end up with what we need. Optimal word is should. Alright, fantastic. Another 2 shapes are completing, so I think we will leave it here this episode. We've done plenty of work on our tasks. We're now up to, well, task 19 and 20 are pretty much done. Oh, well, this one, 21 is all done. So I'm not going to complete it, so next episode I know where I'm starting from. But yeah, we're in our 20s now. We've only got not many more shapes to do, maybe like 10 more full tasks to do. But given each single task is basically a restart, you know, it still might take a few more episodes. Alright guys, we'll leave it here. If you've enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and sub, and I'll see you all in the next video. Thanks for watching.